Don't everybody speak at once.
Yeah, we could go ahead and get started. I was just admitting. A few more people are coming in right now.
Okay. Well, I don't have an agenda, but I was asked just to start the meeting and then leave it in your good hands. Our speakers tonight, Bill Wren, and Stephen Hummel from the Big Bend Observatory, from the McDonald Observatory, and Annie Gilliland from Big Bend National Park. And you guys are a whole lot more knowledgeable than I am. I'll just sit and listen and hopefully learn something. So, Bill and the others, it's all in your park.
All right. Well, thank you. I think I'm leading off. We probably got about a half an hour's worth of presentations and then discussion afterwards. Although if y'all have questions along the way, please don't hesitate to chime in. We can do, sometimes people will think of a question and try and hold it till the end and then not remember. So please chime in if you've got a question for us along the way. I believe I'm going to speak first, and then Stephen and Annie, and then maybe back to Stephen. Does that sound about right, you guys?
Yep, that's the plan.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, I'm very glad to be here. This is not the first, but one of the first town halls we've done around the Greater Big Bend International Dark Sky Reserve. That is a mouthful. It's a long title. Now, I like to think that it reflects the scope of the project because it's a very large undertaking. And let's see, John, you're going to advance the slides for us, aren't you? So next slide, please. Let's see. How's this coming through for everybody? Everybody getting the...
I just have a little postage stamp. How do I make it bigger?
Well, you're on a phone.
Let's see, yeah, can y'all see that? I'm screen sharing. You might have to maximize. You can flip between your video view and your screen sharing view.
Okay, I'm going to try to go on my iPad. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's all right. Let us know if you are having trouble seeing this.
Yeah, just proceed on and I'll switch it over to my iPad. So I go ahead. Don't let me hold you back here.
All right. Well, the observatory is planning an application. We're preparing an application for, again, the Greater Big Bend International Dark Sky Reserve. And I'm going to show you a map of it here in just a second. But the International Dark Sky Association is the entity which bestows these designations on, well, they have a variety of categories. Dark sky parks, dark sky communities. Dripping Springs is one here in Texas. I think Wimberley's another. And dark sky reserves, which is what we're going after. Dark sky sanctuaries, which I think Amber Harrison's preparing applications for Black Gap and Elephant Mountain Wildlife Management areas to be designated as dark sky sanctuaries. But the IDA goes back to 1988, I believe. I joined them in 90. I think Dave Esper, who's on the call, was one of the founding board members, if I'm not mistaken. And there are 16 international dark sky reserves around the globe. And this is very much an international effort. I mean, it's based out of Tucson. It was founded originally by a couple of astronomers, one amateur, one professional, and it has morphed dramatically away from just protecting astronomical observatories into protecting the night skies around the globe. As I said, there's currently 16 international dark sky reserves on 6 continents, I believe. And the one we are proposing will be larger in size and scope than all the other 16 combined. So it's a big elephant to eat. Let me just give you a little bit of background here real quick. Thanks, John. It was right on cue. Most of you are probably familiar with the layout here. The 7 counties in West Texas that surround McDonald Observatory have outdoor lighting ordinances, as do all of the cities within those 7 counties. Now, counties with lighting ordinance, well, any kind of a county ordinance in Texas is kind of like a unicorn. They really aren't supposed to exist. But in 1976, the state legislature gave these 7 counties explicit permission to enact outdoor lighting ordinances designed to protect the night skies for ongoing astronomical research at McDonald Observatory. And over the decades, 6 out of the 7 counties adopted outdoor lighting ordinances voluntarily. When I came to work here in 1990, Jeff Davis County actually was the only one. We just kind of poked and prodded and got Brewster and Presidio, and it ended up Reeves County was the lone holdout. They did not want to have any kind of regulations. They were very transparent, straightforward about it. The commissioner's court, they didn't want any regulations that would scare away the oil and gas industry. And you'll see why in a second here. However, in 2011, former Governor Perry signed a bill that changed the language from these counties may adopt lighting ordinances to these counties shall adopt lighting ordinances, made it mandatory. That brought Reeves County on board. And they also in that law included all of the municipalities within those 7 counties. So we've really kind of got a head start on what's required to get the reserve set up. Next slide, please, John. This is why I say you'll understand why Reeves County didn't want to scare away oil and gas. The city of Pecos is lost in there. About 2008, it's not fracking so much as directional drilling that revolutionized exploration and production in the oil and gas industry. Well, in all fairness, I don't think any of these oil and gas companies that came into the 7-county region are really Culberson, Reeves, and Pecos counties are the 3 protected counties that have seen most of the oil and gas activity. I don't think they were aware that these ordinances existed. I think they would have chosen to light their nighttime activities differently had they been aware ahead of time. However, it is what it is. I think they'd have done differently, and I'll hold up Apache Corporation as an example of that, because when they announced the Alpine High Play in southern Reeves County in 2016, we reached out to them and they worked with us to light all of their facilities in southern Reeves to be night sky friendly. There are a number of examples up in the Alpine, dozens of facilities up there that are lit very well. And actually a couple of them are going to be included in the dark sky reserve. So it can, oil field, industrial lighting can be done well, residential, commercial, industrial light, it can all be done well. There's no reason not to light. In fact, I think this is a good point to interject just for those of you who are new to the effort to protect the night skies. This started McDonald Observatory centric, but the important thing to keep in mind is that we are not against outdoor lighting at night. This is about dark skies, not dark ground. All we're trying to do is keep the light on the ground. We want people to have their safety and security at night, but we also want to keep the skies dark overhead. So what we're going to do then is focus. We're kind of writing off Hudspeth, Culberson, Reeves, and Pecos counties right now, and we're focusing on the Tri-County area in the southern part. Next slide, please. That title, by the way, in the prior slides, McDonald Observatory Night Sky Reserve, that's totally self-appointed. There's no formality to that whatsoever. But this, on the other hand, will be a designation from the International Dark Sky Association. And you can see, don't worry about the numbers there. Those are basically just mostly public and some private lands that are dedicated, already dedicated for conservation. The criteria, the requirements for a dark sky reserve ask for a core region with really pristine night skies and very strict outdoor lighting practices surrounded by a buffer. So the dark black border surrounding Big Bend National Park, Big Bend Ranch State Park, which now includes the Chinati Mountain State Natural Area. They're under the same management. And then in the north, the Nature Conservancy and the McDonald Observatory campus. We had actually talked about including Davis Mountain State Park, Balmorhea State Park, the Fort, Elephant Mountain, Black Gap, and IDA balked at that. They didn't want to splinter it up too much. So they wanted to have just a few entities to oversee maintaining the quality of the skies over the core regions. And we're also looking at these 3 protected areas south of the Rio Grande in northern Mexico.
567.
Right. That's from west to east, that's Santa Elena, Ocampo, and Del Carmen protected areas. There is an agency within the Mexican government that bestows these protected designations on these areas. There's dozens of them in Mexico proper, but these 3 border along what we're already trying to establish. It's very different in Mexico. It's all private land. There is this formal designation or protection bestowed by the Mexican government, but it is privately owned land. So we have a good relationship with Cemex Corporation through the Borderlands Research Initiative out of Sol Ross that gets us into Del Carmen, but I'm still working for contacts in Santa Elena and Ocampo. Cemex has agreed to provide a letter of support for this, but that whole region that's bordered, outlined in green, is the extent of the reserve. It's on the order of 17,000 square miles. Well, I'm not sure what else to say. Again, we have kind of a head start there with these counties and cities already having outdoor lighting ordinances. So next slide, John. I'm going to just kind of go over the criteria here a little bit, the main things that we have to accomplish. One of the things that the IDA asks for is a demonstration of broad-based community support. Now, we're talking about communities that are far-flung out here in West Texas. So getting them all on the same page for something like this is certainly a challenge. But what we're doing now is embarking on a series of town hall events, basically for anybody who will listen, to try, basically it's education and awareness about the kind of lighting practices that we need to establish, and Stephen will speak to that. But that's a big part of it, is making sure, and we'll be coming back and soliciting letters of support from lots of public and private landowners and groups, governmental county commissioners and city councils and so on, just all the different stakeholders in this reserve. We will be soliciting letters of support from them to put in the application. So they also ask for a lighting management plan, which is kind of an overarching document that talks about the types of lighting practices that can be used in the reserve. So So again, we're kind of ahead of the game, and we've already got city and county ordinances in place. However, we are in the process now of revisiting the language of these city and county ordinances to bring them up to the IDA criteria. Valentine's already done it. They've adopted the revised language that we've suggested to them. We're working with Alpine right now, and in the process of doing Marfa, Presidio, Balmorhea. Jeff Davis County is having a public hearing in 2 weeks from today after their regular commissioners court meeting. Brewster County's in the works, and I still got to get a hold of Cinderella for Presidio County. So there's a lot of work there to revise those ordinance language. But the main points, the light has to be fully shielded, and that's already in all the existing ordinances. So there's not really an issue there. But we're introducing a way of defining fully shielded to include light trespass. And what we mean by light trespass is light that originates from one property shining on to an adjacent property, where it may in fact be unwanted. And the way that we're writing up the language to try and keep it commonsensical. I mean, there are some of the ordinances already have light trespass defined as measuring 0.5 vertical foot candles 3 feet above the property line. And it's kind of like, okay, we got to hire a lighting engineer. So we've reworded it to say if the light source is visible from off-site or off property, then it can be considered light trespass. Not the light fixture itself lighting the ground, but the light bulb, the bare bulb. If that's visible from off property, then it could be a nuisance. It could be light trespass. We're also trying to keep a warm white to that 2700 degrees Kelvin color temperature. It's what you're familiar with the traditional incandescent light bulb. It's what the industry calls warm white. The white, bluish white stuff they call that cold white. It's actually much higher temperature, so they're confused. But anyway, that's okay. But it's easy to get, and it makes for better even illumination. Well, Stephen's going to talk about this, so I won't get into the weeds here too much. And we're also proposing a lumens per acre cap to prevent overlighting. The kind of thing you might think of that's overly lit are often like convenience stores and gas pump islands that, the Family Dollars or Dollar General, that kind of, where they have a cookie cutter approach to their construction, and they have a lighting plan that's designed for the suburbs of Houston to, where you're in a bright environment to start with. So we're asking them to keep lighting levels overall reasonably low, because we're already in a low light environment, so you really don't need really bright lights to see. In fact, the bright lighting can impair your visibility. Where we have to do lighting inventories, the core is already done. The joy of this is Big Bend Ranch State Park and Big Bend National Park are already international dark sky parks. So they are already up to snuff. They meet the criteria. The Nature Conservancy, the observatory, has just provided replacement fixtures for the McIver Center Complex, some extra bulbs and stuff, and brought them into compliance, and the McDonald Observatory campus is in compliance. So we're talking, that's in the core. The core is already covered. We've already got that made. So that's, again, we're ahead of the game. Outside the core, the International Dark Sky Association requires that we inventory all the public lighting. So we have been working with AEP and Rio Grande Electric Co-op to provide audits of all the public lighting they have installed. We're talking almost all of it street lighting, okay? But we've already gotten printouts from Alpine, Marfa, and Presidio. They're forthcoming for Valentine, Marathon, and Balmorhea. And we're still working on Rio Grande Electric. Judge Cano in Brewster County I sent him a contact, and he's supposed to make the request and give them permission to share the information with the observatory. As far as private lighting goes, I know the Big Bend Conservation Alliance is about to embark. They're going to try and enlist some volunteers to embark on an effort to catalog or inventory public lighting in Alpine and other communities. And really, what we need is not every single light fixture in the reserve, just like the public lighting. We just need a representative sample, a large enough representative sample that we can show the IDA that this is the kind of lighting practices. And I'm sure we'll get letters from the utilities that will say this is the kind of lighting that they're installing around the area as a matter of course. We are documenting sky quality. This has been primarily through efforts here at the observatory and the West Texas Friends of the Night Sky. We take these little handheld meters. Well, Stephen's going to talk about this too. Sorry, Stephen, I don't mean to get into steal your thunder here, but we're keeping track of the sky quality. And we're about to launch, there'll be a press release coming very soon about a recognition program for good night sky friendly lighting. Well, we've already identified about 5 entities that we want to start with, and then every month we'll recognize a couple of more and hold them up as examples for people to see, like, oh, hey, by the way, you want to see an example of the good lighting that we're talking about? Go have a look at the new high school in Alpine or the Border Patrol station on West 90. That's all really good lighting. We want to hold them up as examples for people to see and prove we're not against lighting. We just are in favor of good lighting. And then we're on a continuing mitigation program since the 1970s, primarily through private donations. The observatory has spent tens of thousands of dollars retrofitting existing lighting in surrounding communities to help keep the skies dark. And Big Bend Conservation Alliance we're in discussions with them about a possible fundraiser, perhaps in the summer. We don't, we know we're asking a lot for a business to bring its lighting into compliance in some cases. So we want to help offset the cost to them for meeting those criteria, especially bringing their lighting into compliance with existing ordinances and so on. Okay, next, please. Am I done?
Yep. All right.
Well, yeah.
All right. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen.
Again, for those who don't know me, my name is Stephen Hummel, and I'm also here at McDonald Observatory. And I was going to talk a little bit about, well, we have a dark sky here, right? We're trying to make a dark sky reserve, but in order for that to really succeed, we have to kind of show that the sky here is truly dark as we say it is. It's one thing to look out and say, oh, that's a bunch of stars, but we're kind of taking stock of what our skies are actually like at the moment through a couple different methods. One is a relatively simple method called a sky quality meter. It's basically a handheld device about the size of a cell phone. You hold it up, you push a button, it gives you a number, it gives you an answer. This is how dark your sky actually is. And we've done that for all these locations on the map. And inside the parks, there's actually sometimes over a dozen more. There's quite a lot. And we're going to do this. We have been doing this since about the summer, but we're going to do this on 3-month intervals. Take data from each of these locations so we can see how dark the sky is and how it's changing over time. Is it getting brighter? Is it getting darker? And so on. So that's currently ongoing. And I can say just offhand that on all the locations outside of just a few miles outside of Alpine, Fort Davis, Marfa, etc., it's just basically as dark as it gets here. And that's what we're trying to protect. We're trying to make sure it stays that way, that the sky truly is as dark as it is now forever. But another way we're doing it is a little more high tech. This is mostly done with volunteers, and you are welcome to also contribute to that if you're interested. But next slide, please. So another more sophisticated way is called all sky photometry. And this is where we take a science grade camera and basically create a mosaic of the entire sky. And then with this data and a method developed by the National Park Service, we can subtract all of the natural sources of light, like the Milky Way, even things like air glow and zodiacal light that contribute just a little bit to the overall brightness of the sky. We can subtract all the natural stuff, and it just leaves the artificial light sources. That's what you see on the right. And this data was taken a little over a month ago from Soto Vista in Big Bend. We've also been taking the same kind of data here at McDonald Observatory for a number of years. We're trying to create data sets like this for locations across the reserve. And that gets the light all the way down to the horizon. And here at Soto Vista at Big Bend, you can see that the greatest source of light pollution is down low in the north. The bottom of the image is north. That's from the Permian Basin, which you saw earlier in the map. But we also have a number of other little sources from Presidio, Marfa, and other small towns. They're not much, but they are there, and they have gotten brighter. We actually have data from this location from 2003. So we can go all the way back. And back then, in 2003, the all-sky light pollution ratio, which is basically a fancy way of saying how much brighter is the sky over just complete absence of all artificial light. Back in 2003, it was 0.03. Now it's 0.12. What does that mean? Well, it means the sky right now at Big Bend is 12% brighter than if there were no artificial lights at all. That's still incredibly good. That's still basically as good as it's going to get in the continental United States. But it is increasing, which shows that there is still a need to do more to protect our skies, to keep it from getting much worse. So again, it's still very dark. If you go to a major city, it would be above 1. It would be like maybe 1.5, maybe up to 2. It can be more than 100% brighter than no light. So it's still very, very dark. All right, next slide. All right, so how do we keep the skies dark? What steps do we actually have to take in terms of real physical things you're doing to keep the light down on the ground and out of the sky? And luckily, better lighting for the night sky is just better lighting for everything. It's a win-win solution. The policies we promote, the lighting we recommend would benefit everyone in a major city just as much. It's really, in an ideal world, the way everyone would do it because there is no downside. And I'll get to why in a minute. But a night sky friendly light is shielded. So the light goes down onto the ground. It doesn't spill out the sides, doesn't go above the light source. The light it emits is aimed downward. It is a sort of amber color. The color temperature, we talked a little bit about before. We recommend 2700 Kelvin or below, which is kind of that softer amber white, which is pretty common in a lot of places you see in a local area. As opposed to sort of a harsh white or blue you may see from newer LED sources. We recommend you only use as much light as you need. Overlighting isn't just wasteful, it's a concern for other reasons too, which I'll get to. And if you're not using a light, turn it off. You know, if you only need a light for certain hours, then you might as well switch it off and save the energy. All right, next slide. All right, so the benefits of this simple solution, just shielding, color temperature, intensity, and timing are manyfold. It saves energy. It's better for safety and security. It's better for your health. It's better for the environment. It helps conserve science, and it helps conserve our culture, and it promotes tourism to the region as well. So next slide. Next slide. Is it not responding?
Is it coming through? I think it's probably just a little bit of lag.
Oh, okay, there it goes. Yeah, I just took 10 seconds or so. All right, so yeah, by using better lights, we can save energy. And right now, every year, the U.S. Department of Energy estimates that as a country, we waste about $3.3 billion worth of electricity. And I'm sure that was even more apparent during the recent blackouts. If you saw those pictures of major cities with the skyscrapers lit up and nearby neighborhoods dark, you see visually how much light they're wasting. And energy is money now more than ever. And on average, about 30% of all the light that we emit as a country is wasted just by having an unshielded fixture. And we could save about 60% of the energy if we just use better designs. So there's a lot of room for improvement just as a country and here as well. Next slide, please. So a concern I often hear is that that people want to use more lights because they think it's safer, for both in terms of identifying hazards and in terms of security on identifying threats. Well, shielded lights, what we recommend, put more light on the ground by directing light that would otherwise be going into the sky onto the ground. The ground is actually better lit and more evenly illuminated, so you actually see better. And it produces less glare, because if you can't see the fixture itself, if it's shielded, then you'll be able to see everything around it a lot better. So night sky friendly designs are safer, and that's been carried out, as we said, as Bill mentioned earlier, in our work with the oil and gas industry. Everyone who's adopted this design in industrial settings loves it because people can actually see what they're doing. So more light doesn't necessarily make you more able to identify threats. It's more about adjusting the lights to what your eyes are actually used to, and evenly illuminating things. Also, more light doesn't reduce the odds of crime, despite that being a rather common feeling. There's actually no real evidence. There's no study that has shown conclusive proof that more light equals less crime. Actually, there's some studies that show the opposite, because if you illuminate everything, well, thieves need light to see as well. So they're more likely going to identify something that's worth stealing. And light, it just isn't a very strong deterrent, right? If someone is determined to rob your house, having a light outside isn't going to really stop them. If they want to get in, they're going to get in. But it providing more light actually increases the odds of crimes of opportunity. And most property crimes actually occur during the day when there's plenty of light anyway, and you probably aren't home. Well, maybe not during COVID, but you're more likely to be out and out doing something. And just like before, shielded lights allow you to identify threats better by hiding glare. So again, night sky friendly lights are safer and more secure. All right, next slide, please. So one aspect that a lot of people don't consider is that our exposure to artificial light at night actually harms our human health. And this has been backed up by a lot of different studies. It's a huge topic. And the main concern to human health comes from blue light sources. When I say blue light sources, I don't mean a light that actually looks very blue to your eye, because the way most modern lights create a white color is by adding blue. So if you look at the chart there, if you look at the solid black line, that shows the amount of color in basically a white light source. And you can see that there's this huge spike in the violet and blue, because the way that they work is they add basically a violet pump, a blue pump, to add more blue and on top of the red and green, and our eyes perceive it as white. The reason that this is a problem is because humans have evolved over millennia with day and night. You are active during the day and you sleep at night. And that is regulated by what we call our circadian rhythm, which is basically responsible for, among other things, generating melatonin, which is the hormone that actually makes you sleepy. It's not really a hormone, but it's kind of like a hormone. But anyway, melatonin makes you sleepy, and lots of blue light suppresses the generation of melatonin. Therefore, you're up longer. You may notice that if you stare at screens for a long time, you'll have a hard time falling asleep afterwards because of this effect. But by disrupting our circadian rhythm, it also leads to a lot of other issues, health issues like diabetes, heart disease, and obesity. And also blue light is less easily focused by our eyes. And then the older you are, the more true this is, because the blue light scatters more inside your eye and produces more glare. And as your eyes age, the more the things kind of deteriorate and the more glare is produced. And you've probably noticed that if you've driven any time in the last decade at night. With modern LED headlights, the glare they produce is sometimes completely blinding. So it's another safety concern as well. And that's why we recommend yellowish lights to avoid this effect. Next slide. So just as humans have evolved a circadian rhythm that regulates our sleep cycle, so have most plants and animals. And you can see in the example, there is an unshielded whitish blue light source, and the tree that's closer to the light source still has many of its leaves in that example, because the tree is confused and it thinks the season is much later than it really is. And that could actually jeopardize its survival later in winter if it's still holding nutrients in those leaves. It also confuses and distracts insects. You've all seen moths drawn to light sources. The other day, I went to the hardware store to pick up some light bulbs, and I saw that they were selling bug lights. And maybe you've seen those. And I noticed they were more expensive than a 2700K bulb, despite the fact that it was exactly the same thing, just a different marketing twist. Bugs and insects, as it turns out, are more drawn to blue light, and they actually can't see most yellow or red light. So all a bug light is in the hardware store is it's filtering out the blue light to not attract insects. So maybe I'll save you a few bucks later on. You don't have to buy the fancy things. Just buy a normal 2700K bulb or below, and you'll get the same effect. But that's actually a huge ecological concern because we have so many lights outside that insects are dying at an alarming rate. We are living through a period of almost mass extinction of many different insect species, especially things like fireflies and other things that rely on light as part of the reproductive cycle. And light affects other mammals and larger animals too. It can confuse them. It can draw them to certain areas that they shouldn't be in. And prey species need darkness, use darkness essentially to hide, and whereas predators use light to hunt. So it puts predators actually at an advantage over the prey and throws everything out of whack as a result. Next slide, please. And lastly, this is a little more abstract, but the night sky it's crucial sort of to our culture and in our identity of the region. Just as much as a scene of the Chisos in Big Bend is iconic of the region, so is the night sky along with it. It's half the reason people come here. And it's also, of course, critical to the astronomical research we do here at McDonald Observatory. We could not do the work we do here at McDonald Observatory if the skies were very bright. And that's unfortunately the fate of many, if not most, major observatories in the United States. The cities have expanded and swallowed them up. And McDonald still has the darkest skies of any major observatory in the United States. I'm very proud of that. We want to maintain that because, again, it could not, our research couldn't work without it. But similarly, there are a few truly dark places left in the US where there is just a natural nocturnal environment for wildlife. And so there are a few examples to study of what that's actually like without human interference. And places like Big Bend and Black Gap are great examples for that. Next slide, please. All right, and of course, preserving dark skies not only saves you energy money, but it can create money because people come to the region to see the sky. And astro-tourism, especially in Fort Davis, is a huge driver of the local economy. I know people drive from across the country to come here specifically for the skies. And we want to promote that. We want that to continue. We want more to come. But pre-COVID, we had about 300 people per night here at the observatory during a star party. That's an average throughout the year. I've seen upwards of 1,000 before limitations are put on that. And we get about 100,000 people here every year to the observatory, again, pre-COVID. But I can say I've had a look at our reservations list for the observatory, and I looked at the wait list, and there's a lot of demand. A lot of people want to come here. And one of the great things about astrotourism, as opposed to other kinds of tourism, is you have to do it at night. You have to be here at night, and you're probably not going to drive from San Antonio and then drive back the same night, right? You're going to stay in the area. So it puts heads in beds, and therefore it's a great boost to the local economy. And to speak to that even further, I'm going to turn it over to Annie Gilliland at Big Bend National Park. So Annie, would you take it from here?
Yes, if you can go to the next slide. Thank you, that's mine. Yes, I'm Annie. I'm going to just talk really briefly about what the National Park Service has seen in regards to all of this, especially with local economies and astrotourism, or people coming to see specifically the night sky. And just so you know where I'm coming from, I have worked in, I believe, 5 different parks now, running public astronomy programs in all of them, some bigger than others. And this is also something I studied in grad school, specifically dark skies and light pollution issues. So I've been focusing on it for a while. Big Bend has obviously not been doing big public programs recently. We're just starting to get back to very small group programs right now. And those are popular. They fill up every time. Clearly people want to get back to these ranger hikes and talks as soon as they safely can. So a lot of this is kind of, again, pre-COVID information, but when we can do astronomy programs here, they consistently have a really high attendance. I came on actually in August, so I don't have, I wasn't around for keeping the data before that time, and people, they didn't keep specifics on astronomy versus other evening programs or other programs. But I've been told repeatedly that if you were focusing on stars and got telescopes out, you would get by far the most people. I'm going to make sure that we keep that data separate as soon as we start doing them again. I worked in Great Basin National Park before here, which I would say is about equally isolated, in that, you know, people coming from anywhere else have to come about the same distance. They have to really want to get there, right? And there, it's a massive astronomy program. Holiday weekends, we could have up to 300 people packed into the one parking lot trying to use 3 different telescopes. So it was an adventure, but that is to say it's very popular. Across the National Park Service, we're seeing visitation go up every year. And I don't have the full data yet for 2020, but in 2019 was overall the busiest year ever for basically sites across the country. They also look at the economic output into the local communities around park sites as well. And we are seeing that consistently go up every year. So as you can see here, 2012, they found 25.1 million was the output likely from tourists to national parks. And then 2019, it was at 46.6 million. And people have taken this data and put it into various formulas and studies. They've had people rank what they come to national parks for, what they're most interested in. And this is done at historic sites, at big wilderness parks, at more urban sites across the board. And more we are seeing viewing the dark night sky as listed as either the most important or very important or just very high on people's lists there. And that continues to sort of creep towards one of the top things they're wanting to see as the years go by. So again, using some formulas that are pretty complicated that I could not repeat here, but there have been multiple studies done on this, taking into account people that are staying overnight, what their rating is, their top desires to do in a park, economic output into local communities, visitation to astronomy programs. We have found some pretty high value has been added by focusing on keeping the night skies dark and by bringing people in to look at those night skies. So you can see here that little table was from a study done on parks in the Colorado Plateau, because there are a whole bunch of parks there. I think it's 19, I think, in that area. So it's not exactly, what Big Bend in the Texas area might be, but I think we can still correlate there. You can see that it is thought from these studies, people that specifically came to see the night sky, or is that with that as one of their top reasons, added a lot of value, income, and jobs to the communities around those parks. So again, as Stephen was saying, people are more likely to stay overnight, to spend, their money in a hotel, other accommodations, and restaurants, therefore probably too. They're going to have time to explore those local communities. And we do have the data to back that up at this point. So I think it could only be good really for all of us in that way. And I think if we focus on just, like everyone has been stressing, on keeping the night skies dark, like they already are in so many cases, we'll just continue to grow in all of these positive ways. So later, if you have questions about kind of the National Park Service side of this, feel free to ask me, but I'm going to pass it on for now.
All right, thank you, Annie. Yeah, all right, just very quickly, I wanted to add that McDonald Observatory works with surrounding community members, businesses on trying to retrofit their lights, and sometimes this can support that financially. Sometimes we just provide advice. But here in this example, this is Hotel Olympia in Fort Davis. And in the before picture, they have these very bright lights that the light bulb extends below the fixture. And you can see that they're also a very bright, glare producing whitish blue color. You can see that it spills a lot of light, but the guests at the hotel were so frustrated with these bulbs right outside their rooms at night that oftentimes they would go out, unscrew the bulb, and leave it on the ground. They would just take them out because they thought they were so obnoxious. We worked with Hotel Olympia, mostly. When I say we, I really mostly mean Bill Wren. And we got them some better light bulbs. You can see that they sit within the housing, so they don't produce too much glare. All the light they emit on going down. I just think that aesthetically looks better too. I think that's just a more pleasing, more homey look that more matches the aesthetic of the region as well, much more rustic. So that's an example of kind of what we're trying to work towards. But again, if you have a business or you are trying to change your light fixtures, you're not sure what to do, you can contact us. You can contact Big Bend Conservation Alliance as well. I'm sure they'd be happy to help too. But next slide. But if you think you already have a business or organization, some public building that maybe you already know about this and you have night sky friendly lights, then we'd like to recognize you formally. And this is a new program that is going to be formally launched in probably a few weeks. We should have a press release coming out soon. But you can nominate yourself or someone you know online through an online form. And we can formally recognize their business. We'll give them a poster of this, as well as some stickers, mention them in media where appropriate. And because we really want examples, we want to promote our night skies, because we do think it is a great economic benefit to the region. So again, look for this early this year, just probably a few more weeks, probably no more than a month, you'll see more about this. Next slide. Yeah, so just concluding remarks, just to summarize everything, I think this reserve, this proposed Greater Big Bend International Dark Sky Reserve will be great for the region. It'll help promote astrotourism here. It will give us international recognition. People already come here to see the night sky, but I hope that we can make it a formally recognized thing in the region, that the world knows that we have the good skies. And I hope it'll promote awareness of night sky friendly lighting designs and kind of unify the region behind this effort. So that's really the purpose of the reserve, as are those goals. But this time I'm going to wrap up and I'm going to open it up to any questions if anyone has them. I know we went a little long, but I'm going to answer any questions y'all have.
I'll take responsibility for going long because I went into some of your topics, Stephen. My apology.
No worries.
All right. If anyone has a question, you might have to unmute yourself.
Well, I guess that means I got everything. I've told you everything you need to know, right? So y'all are gonna go out. You're gonna volunteer for the Dark Skies Regional Working Group that Shelley just posted. Yeah. I guess we're good.
I also put a link to the white paper, just a page and a half overview of what the Dark Sky Reserve encompasses. So by all means, hey, Guy.
Bill, I just wanted to add for those members of Tierra Grande that are attending this, that I believe this would qualify for an AT event. This was an instructional teaching presentation. So I'll send out some information a little bit later. I think I've captured everyone, but I like the letter D and some of the other monikers. I'm gonna have no clue who that is. So if you are a member of Tierra Grande and would like to hear from me about how to qualify for AT for this, then reach out for me or reach out to me. Hopefully you know how to get in touch with me, but if you can write and have the ability to, with a pen and paper, I don't mean you cannot write, but my number is 512-217-3666. That's 512-217-3666. Yes, I did used to live in Austin.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thanks, Guy. We'll make this, we're going to put this on YouTube as well. It's being recorded, so we can send it out more broadly.
Great.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Was there any other questions before we wind this thing up?
Quick
Yeah, I
question.
have
One, yeah. I liked seeing what you did with the Hotel Olympia lighting. I just was lucky enough to spend Friday night in Big Bend at the national park at one of the beautiful old cottages, and there they have lighting on little posts as you go around the cottages. And one thing that I know a lot of people like at the Hotel Olympia, and there, you know, your joy is to experience the night skies. And it was somewhat disappointing that you couldn't turn off those lights. And I wonder if that's something that you suggest to people as well as they're retrofitting, is having light switches to turn off those night lights that are supposed to help us, but we're in bed and we don't need those. We just want to look at the stars. Is that something that ever comes up?
I can answer a little bit for the lodge there too. So part of, I agree on that. The cottages are beautiful, but I do agree that it's a little bit bright on the pathways there. Part of that was that some things were kind of grandfathered in. So, you know, if they were being done now, it would be a little bit different. But one thing that is almost always recommended with retrofitting or just fixing lighting is adding a timer system, motion sensing or something else, so that it'll be on when you need it, when you walk by, and hopefully go off 30 seconds later. So I think that's usually the version. I don't know about switches for those in more of the public areas, but I know a timer function is what's usually recommended there. Mhm.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Timers and motion sensors are great for that.
Because often in motels of any sort, you know, you're trying to go to sleep and you have this bright light outside your window. It's sort of
Yes.
Yeah.
frustrating, especially it's right outside your room. It's not helping anybody else anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. I hear about that a lot. Yeah. Or their own bedroom and it's their neighbor, you know.
Yes.
That's another very common call we get. But yeah, we try to work with them. Keep the light on your own property is generally what we say.
Yes.
Don't try to illuminate someone else's property. They may not appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anne, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering if there were any mechanisms in place or thoughts about how to get more community support and involvement you know, because I'm looking on here and where we've had about 25 people here today, and some of these are our presenters. And a lot of the names I see are Texas Master Naturalist buddies of mine. And then I see some amateur and not so amateur astronomers on here that I've known in the community. And it seems like that this needs to gain momentum. It needs to have more people advocating for it. Just even if they just say, I'm in and I support this. You know, I'm not saying they have to go out and you know, doing 8 hours a week of work, but just advocacy and commitment to this, to dark skies. And how do we get more? I know that there are people out there. I mean, I run into people. Do we hold star parties in the different communities on a rotating basis? How do we get people to really buy into the advantage of doing this for all the reasons y'all have stated? And you know, they may have read this in the paper, maybe they've seen this presentation before, but I don't get the commitment, and I'm wondering how to get that. What, go and ring it out or what? You know, what do we have to do?
It's hard. Yeah, there is, you have to strike a balance between talking about it but not hitting people over the head with it. I think one of the most effective ways I've found to get people engaged is to have them just physically come out and see the sky and see what they've been missing. And to that extent, McDonald Observatory well, it's been set back due to COVID, but we've been trying to do community nights where it's free for locals to come to a star party so they can experience the sky. And a lot of locals, you know, they've lived here for 10 years and they've never visited us. And well, you know, we'll set a time aside from them to make that happen. But yeah, with part of the intention is for them to see it, to have that experience under the sky and realize what they're protecting. But in terms of more engagement, a lot of it is, I feel like, kind of just keep reminding people a little bit. I will say the one other very effective method I found is to what I call give people the curse, the gift of the curse. And the curse is wherever you go, you notice the bad lights. You'll see those unshielded lights. Once you see it, you can never ever unsee it. For as long as you live, you will notice those lights and will stick with you. So showing examples, I think we need more community examples. That's why we're taking the business recognition program. That's what we're trying to do with that. Is see the sky, realize what they're missing, and make people notice the lights. That's the goal. And there's a lot of ways of doing it. There's no perfect solution, but that's what we're trying to do.
Okay.
Let me comment on that. It's from the Downtown Association. I think this turnout is very good. Believe me, and it's hard to get people involved. And in any community, even a big town like Dallas, you have a very small cadre of people that are involved in everything, and nobody else gets involved. So every community has this problem. I think a turnout of around 25 is super great for this meeting.
Thank you, Jim.
And we have lined up a number of other town hall meetings, which we're not stopping here. We're in touch with the various property owners association throughout the region, chambers of commerce, the civic groups, and just what have you. So again, a big part of it is education and awareness. And the process of revisiting these lighting ordinances in all the cities and the counties as well. You know, they've been hearing from McDonald Observatory for decades about it, but if they could just hear more from their constituents, I think we'd go a lot farther as well. So I agree, it's a challenge. Get people involved.
How much have you connected with Sul Ross State University? Seems like that would be a good direction to connect with people.
Yeah, we have worked over the years with Sul Ross, certainly so. Most of their lighting is compliant with the Alpine City Ordinance, almost all high pressure sodium. You know, again, working through BRI and what have you. And I know that Pete's been a big supporter of the observatories and dark skies now for a long time. So we're fortunate to have him there.
I was thinking in terms of also student awareness and, some kind of activity on campus where the students get to come look through a telescope or something, or somehow get students aware and involved, because they're the minds that are there to learn and to experience things.
Yeah, I think you raise a good point. Yeah, about the college student demographic. I will admit, I don't think we've ever really targeted that group specifically. So it's probably something we could be doing more with.
We, with Laura and Janice and myself and Guy and Lisa, we had talked about different activities, but we kind of canceled it for right now because of COVID, getting people together and showing them, like say within Alpine, maybe a park situation. We were debating about where to do that and invite people out. And we had one teleconference where we identified different constituent groups, I guess that'd be the best way to call them, and how we would reach out to them. So we can build on that, but we've kind of had to take a back seat in order for gatherings at this time. And also, I think we needed to work on the ordinance and be getting people to support the ordinance, getting it through, I think is going to be helpful. And yeah, certainly going to Big Bend and, Sol Ross, and maybe there's science clubs or things like that, or the high school science clubs, that might be the place to start. And we also talked about sending information home with the kids, the elementary school kids, middle school kids, about, getting them outside with their parents to look up and look at the sky.
Yeah, we had a high school kid here, and it was amazing how many kids didn't ever go to Big Bend or had never been, or it wasn't really, it'd be great if there were an outdoor club or something in the high school or other school levels to get the kids out and to get them thinking outdoors, and then night skies, of course, too.
And also, I wanted to comment. I saw Jennifer asked in the chat, what about schools? What about targeting younger? And yes, as Shelley said, we are working with the Big Bend Conservation Alliance at Chinati Foundation and the Texas Photographic Society to have a special sort of workshop on photography with an emphasis on dark skies awareness here at the observatory and in other regions. So that will be relatively small groups, but I hope that's something that can continue next year, perhaps when restrictions lift as well. We'll talk about that. I owe Shelley some emails, but yes, we do try to target kids, especially at the observatory. We have a K-12 team, and we do have certain events that are geared towards dark skies, and we provide materials for teachers across the state and beyond to educate them as well, educate the educators to go on and spread the word. So it's definitely something we do target kids quite a bit.
Yeah, historically, we have gone into the schools locally as well. I mean, pretty much every year in, April or May, toward the end of the school year, I get science teachers that call up and say, if you take my science classes throughout the day, that would allow me to get some other work done. So we've been into, elementary, middle schools, high schools, Fort Stockton, Presidio, Alpine, and talked to classes about what makes for good outdoor lighting. And they get it too. It's really neat. I mean, we have demonstrations that we can do in the classroom. Needless to say, that's all kind of been on hold right now. But historically, we have been going into local schools.
That's great.
Speaking of on hold, Bill, reminds me of the Dark Sky Festival that y'all had planned for last April. That seemed like a really great example of bringing folks together to experience what we're talking about. And I'd imagine that'll hopefully come back around here at some point.
Yeah, that will come back in a virtual format this year, but hopefully in person later.
Great.
Kathleen, you're muted. I see you're trying to talk. You are muted.
Yeah. Okay. Now
There we
can you
go.
hear
There we
me?
go.
Yeah.
There we
I
go.
just wanted to, in case people, most of you were aware of it, but Ellen Wynock and myself curated a Dark Skies art show that's just finished up yesterday. And we had all the information for Dark Skies. And the beauty of that was that we had people from all over the country coming through that weren't even aware of it. So that way we were able to reach out to so many people that were not local. And it was just a really successful art show. And I hope we can do it again next year.
That's great.
All the artists painted paintings that reflected the dark skies and the importance of them. So it was pretty cool.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, that's great. I'd love to see like an astrophotography contest.
Yeah.
That's happening at the Museum of the Big Bend in June.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
There is it's called at night. So yes.
At night, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, thank you. It was great, but I got to sign out.
Yeah, we're at about
Thank
an
you.
hour.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Uh-huh.
Is there any other discussion, Ann?
No, I'm saying goodbye.
Oh, okay.
But thank you very much. I really enjoyed it and I appreciate all the feedback.
Okay, well, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. It's a very good discussion, and Bill and Stephen and Annie and everybody else. It was a very good presentation. Thank you very much.
We really appreciate what y'all are doing, and we're happy to be a part of it.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was very good.
Appreciate it. Yeah, take care.
Yep.
Good night.